In the 1990s, the Chicago area became the terrifying scene of a series of bank robberies perpetrated by a cunning, disguised thief known as the Bearded Bandit. This criminal, an expert in weapons, knew how to evade justice. He used his knowledge of police procedures to his advantage. With boldness, he attacked forcefully, quickly disappearing after each heist, making his capture difficult. The first robbery occurred on March 5, 1990. The thief made his debut at a bank on the south side of Chicago. With threats and a weapon in hand, he demanded money from the employees, who, fearful, complied with his orders. At the end of the heist, the criminal vanished, leaving authorities without clear leads, except for a scant description of a tall, white man wearing a fake beard. 6 weeks later, the thief struck again, this time in delivery bill. Increasing his level of aggressiveness, he pressured a cashier to open the bank's vault, using his scanner to ensure that the alarms wouldn't go off. This time, a bold cashier managed to jot down the license plate of the car he used to escape. This led police to discover that the car had also been stolen from a shopping mall. The intensity of his crimes escalated, and soon other robberies were reported in the region. Authorities, perplexed, realized that the Bearded Bandit had a very meticulous modus operandi, suggesting that he might have received police training. The urgency to apprehend him was imminent, but every attempt to capture him ended in frustration. Each robbery was a new opportunity for the thief to slip away. Between January 1990 and February 1991, the Bearded Bandit committed 7 robberies, always using stolen vehicles and manipulating any evidence left behind. However, one event would mark a turning point in the investigation. On November 4, 1991, during a routine traffic stop, police officer Kevin Mayer came face to face with the thief, who coldly shot him. This attack was a clear indication of the growing violence of the bandit. In the end, the FBI joined forces with local police to create a joint task force aimed at capturing him. Eventually, they marked Jeffrey Erickson as a likely suspect, a former police officer operating alongside his wife. On December 13th of the same year, their capture became a critical mission. When they were finally arrested, he and his accomplice faced a violent situation, resulting in the death of his wife during a shootout. Jeffrey Erickson's trial began on July 13, 1992. The evidence against him was compelling. The courtroom was filled with tension as the prosecutor presented the case, showcasing the terrifying impact of the Bearded Bandit's crime spree on the community. However, tragedy followed the pursuit of justice, as Erickson managed to temporarily free himself, resulting in a fatal attack on 2 police officers during his escape attempt. At that moment, the cycle of violence he had sown continued to tear lives apart and highlighted the seriousness of his crimes. Ultimately, the trial resulted in Erickson being sentenced to 20 years in prison on several charges. This included the death of an officer during his escape. The combination of his background as a police officer and his violent approach to robberies created an extremely dangerous profile. This underscored the need to always remain vigilant against those who, understanding the system, choose to use their knowledge to perpetrate acts of violence rather than to serve and protect. So, if you found this story of how the Bearded Bandit was finally caught and his fall from grace entertaining, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like on the video. Your support is vital to continue sharing more intriguing stories and ensuring that justice prevails, reminding us all of the importance of safety and vigilance in our communities. It serves as a stark reminder of how quickly situations can escalate and the need for law enforcement agencies to work together to combat crime effectively. The case of Charles Moises, a fugitive methamphetamine dealer, represents an intense police manhunt in the heartland of the United States. His pursuit turned into a series of violent events, armed confrontations, and a tragic murder. The narrative begins on February 2, 2000, when authorities face an armed criminal determined to evade capture at all costs. On that day, Lincoln County Sheriff Stan Magnate was conducting a routine patrol. He became involved in a chase after observing a maroon truck with Texas license plates that ignored stop signals. Due to the slippery road conditions, the pursuit was cautious. Ultimately, the vehicle disappeared into the night, and the police issued an alert about the truck, hoping the public could assist in locating it. A week later, a clandestine methamphetamine lab was discovered in an abandoned barn in North Platte. The investigation revealed that the lab's owner, Charles Moises, was likely involved in gun thefts. The Lincoln County Police obtained information about Moises, who had a criminal history. He was linked to methamphetamine production through several ongoing investigations. At 11 p.m. on February 12th, Officer Magnate located Moises' truck parked in an isolated area. When he asked for identification, Moises, in a state of paranoia caused by heavy drug use, attempted to flee, leading to a violent confrontation. During the altercation, Moises shot Magnate in the head. He also shot an unsuspecting state trooper in the chest before escaping into the night. This tragic event prompted an unprecedented response from law enforcement. After the shootings, authorities, including the FBI, became deeply involved in the hunt for the fugitive. Command centers were established, and various agencies began gathering information on Moises. Several high-speed pursuits occurred, resulting in dangerous situations on the road. Authorities noted that Moises might be armed with a high-powered rifle, intensifying the urgency to apprehend him. Moises soon became the prime suspect in the murder of a local farmer, who appears to have surprised him on his property. The farmer was found dead just days later. Evidence pointed to Moises as the likely culprit. The circumstances indicated that this was not an act of self-defense, but rather a cold-blooded murder driven by desperation. Alarmed by Moises's increasing violence, authorities warned the public about the danger he posed. His criminal pattern escalated again when he escaped, stealing vehicles from citizens. He even shot at an innocent person who crossed his path. The sense of fear within the community grew as more individuals became aware of the ongoing situation. Law enforcement agencies continued their search, establishing security perimeters and conducting searches in abandoned farms and rural areas where Moises was suspected to be hiding. In an unexpected turn, a rancher and his son, having recognized Moises from descriptions given in the media, devised a plan to lure him to their home with the hope of alerting the police. After a tense negotiation, Moises was finally apprehended without further violence. Moises faced multiple charges, including second-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder against police officers. He ultimately pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty. His sentence was a staggering 190 years in prison, emphasizing the severity of his crimes and the threat he posed to society. The aftermath of this case highlights the dangerous epidemic of methamphetamine use in the Midwest. Law enforcement remains dedicated to combating this addiction and its effects on families within the community. This story serves as a chilling reminder of the grave risks posed by drugs and criminals, as well as the bravery of those who work tirelessly to maintain public safety and protect the community. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on a hot June day in 1996, when Jamie Estrada, a 17-year-old high school student, disappears without a trace, the anguish of his family quickly turns to terror as they begin to receive calls from a supposed drug cartel demanding an exorbitant ransom of $70,000. The Estrada family, trapped between desperation and fear of the kidnappers' threats, is forced to seek help from the police and the FBI, who soon realize they are dealing with a complex and dangerous case. Meanwhile, it is revealed that Jamie fell victim to a cruel scheme devised by a young woman named Juanita Gonzalez, who had ties to the drug world. In heartbreaking statements, Jamie recounts how he was kidnapped by armed men when he went out to buy some sodas. He experiences true horror as he is tortured, and his captors use him as a tool to extort money from his family, attempting to collect the debts owed to a cartel. The FBI quickly mobilizes, installing surveillance on the family's phone and organizing operatives in a desperate attempt to locate Jamie. After hours of tension and anguish, they receive reports of a series of murders related to the drug cartel, heightening the urgency of the situation. When the ransom delivery is finally made, the plot takes an unexpected turn when it is revealed that Jamie has been found gravely injured, showing that the negotiations were never legitimate. In his state, Jamie explains how he was kidnapped, providing the authorities with clues to advance the investigation. Hours after being rescued, the tragic news about Jamie's condition reaches his family. His gunshot wound becomes a critical health issue, leading him to multiple surgeries and induced coma as he fights for his life in the hospital. As investigators do their jobs, they discover that the kidnappers were not only responsible for the abduction, but were also connected to a wider network of criminal and drug trafficking activities. This reveals a tangled web that involved far more people than initially thought. With the FBI's collaboration, the story takes a turn when authorities manage to identify and arrest several of those involved in Jamie's kidnapping and murder. However, the search for justice does not end here, as the figure known as Beto, one of the main suspects, remains a mystery. Over time, the family, along with investigators, continues their quest for answers and justice for Jamie, whose case serves as a reminder of the horrors that can lurk behind everyday life. Additionally, the community comes together to fight against drug trafficking, seeking to prevent these tragedies from recurring and raising questions about the safety of young people in their environments. In the end, the family pleads for the capture of all those responsible, emphasizing that emotional closure and justice will only occur when the final piece of the puzzle falls into place, and the cycle of violence and despair is broken. Hope remains a light that must never be extinguished, and in their hearts lingers the wish that similar situations will never happen again, alongside a call to action for society as a whole. Now, to you who have made it this far, what do you think about how the authorities' intervention could have changed the outcome of this tragic story? If this account has impacted you, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe for more captivating content. Your support is crucial. If you'd like to dive deeper into similar stories or explore more about the world of crime prevention and community safety efforts, feel free to reach out. Together, we can raise awareness about these critical issues, ensuring a safer environment for everyone, especially the youth.